Sleeman and Sow, it's episode 2. We're talking round 5 of the NRL amongst other sports. Sleeman, how you going?
Not too bad. Did you have a good long weekend?
I did. I hurt my back, but we're all good. We're ready to go on this podcast. And I haven't given any credit to our viewers. Welcome, viewers, and welcome, Sleeman.
Okay, fair enough.
We've also got Jimmy and Paul. You guys are back. How you guys going?
Thanks for having us back.
Thank you for having us back. I think we earned our stripes.
Special mention to George McHale would have been here as well to have a repeat, but he had something to do with the dentist. He had a filling put in. So best wishes, George.
Speedy recovery for George. A speedy recovery. Stay away from Twitter, George. Stay away from Twitter.
The Josh Dugan of podcast. He's thought out. You are silly. Get up, G-Mac.
So before we quickly talk about the NRL, because this is a sports podcast, I actually wanted to talk to. So Sal, take a back seat, relax and chill. Jimmy Pisani, the NBA, they've sort of come out basically with a rough guideline of the timeline of, say, like the round robin, I guess you want to call it, of finding out the final determination of those playoff seedings, and then the first round, second round, and third round. It's coming. It's coming back. And Paul, we're just talking offline. Blazers a chance?
Well, obviously they're my boys, and I just think they're ready to go. I think you want to be looking at teams for value. You want to look at teams that are going to be different going into the break, coming out of it, and we get our starting front court back. So I think we're a very different side. Now they've got no game time underneath their belt, but if Nurk and Zach can be sort of fit, and you've got to say the Pelicans, they were going into the break red hot. If they can come out of it red hot, they've got a weakish schedule. They play Memphis twice, I believe. They're Smokies, so yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Obviously, the main guys are clearly both LA teams and Milwaukee. They're the 3 top teams, most probably hardest to beat. But when you're looking for value, you've got to think outside the box, and those are the teams that are coming in different to what they left.
So, Jimmy, any thoughts on anything to add to that?
I would have to agree with Paul. Smokies, that they definitely are, and Trailblazers, they were very close last year, and I think, as Paul mentioned, with Nurk back, that's a massive in. And I think the Blazers can definitely topple the Pelicans. If it was ever a round matchup between those two, I think it'll be a bit of a sweep going on for the Blazers, given Lillard has the fire, and Dame has shown last year that he's ready to hit those 40-foot 3-pointers at a pretty good clip. So I'm
do you guys think we should have continued, Jimmy? Do you think we should have continued, Jimmy, with the season, or do you think they should have made it a wrap?
To me, there's going to be an asterisk on the season. It's just not a regular championship season. They've taken how many months off now? 3 months. 4 months is going to be. It's just not the same. And it's going to be like that Rockets championship from the lockout season.
Don't you dare.
Asterisks.
I'll quickly add my 2 cents before we go on with the NRL. I think you guys brought some valid points. Lillard and Zach Collins, a little bit just before the season ended, was dealing with groin issues. Now he's had 3 months to fully recover. So I think there, like you said, there could be a chance, but a lot of teams are now fresh and healthy. I think the dark horse in the East would be Philadelphia, because Ben Simmons had that back issue. Hopefully the 3 months has allowed him to heal. So maybe they could contend Milwaukee and I guess Miami. Boston, I'm not very confident, because I've been hearing Tatum hasn't been bouncing a ball at all while in COVID. So be interesting, and we'll definitely catch up in the next couple of weeks. So we've got a chock-a-block session today, so we'll do what we did last week, go through the last week's rounds and the highs and the lows. A couple of topics that we'll talk about. I think with the Canberra's Bateman with his injury, it sort of broke last week when we were literally audioing. Now, there's some stuff that I'll address with you guys that I want you guys to respond to. And then I think the flavour of, I guess, the weekend that's going to continue is just the Dragons' form. Mary didn't get sacked, and your thoughts and opinions about that. So we'll go straight into it, and we'll talk about the teams that we feel that impressed us. And so, Paul, you're going to judge me, Sal, and James on our picks. So myself and Sal had the Roosters, James had the Knights. Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, the Knights confirm themselves as a team of the future. I think what you look for is defensive structures. You've both tipped teams with defensive structures with attacking strike. I think they're going to impress on more than one occasion over the next, over the rest of the season.
You touched on the defensive, but I think, Sal, what impressed me and you, I think, with the Roosters, not just the defense, but how fluent they looked in attack, especially with Brett Morris going to fullback for one of the world's best players, James Tedesco, and they looked like they had missed a beat.
Yeah, I mean, 61 possession of the ball. The player that really, I know I'm being a bit biased because it's on my fantasy team, but Victor Radley attacking the line, he just looked like there was a third halfback out there. And he came out just running straight to the line, passing those balls and creating opportunities, and it just didn't look like they were going to stop. He got off, I don't know what minute it was, 68th or something. If he stayed, he could have just kept going. He was just on a man on a mission. They completed at 82%. Broncos just looked deflated. But just imagine if Tedesco was playing. What kind of damage it would have been? It would have been 60 plus for sure. So I don't know what's changed, but it's just this Radley connection in the middle has just created. And Lindsay Collins, how good was he?
Yeah, he played well. And I think it was
Flanagan. Quite impressive.
And I think it was we've been giving a bit of grease to Flanagan, but I thought it was his best game in first grade. Granted, he's only played like 10 or 15 games. James, just quickly to sum it up, touching base on what Pisani was talking about, the Knights. You sort of go towards the flavour of the weeks by your previous tip with the Warriors. Do you want to add on anything?
I got no doubts that Roosters were impressive, putting 59 on the board, but I wasn't quite surprised that they had come off with a big win. I think the Knights were very impressive going against a premiership favourite in the Canberra Raiders. Ponga being back was, quite a big change. Kurt Mann did his job. Mitchell Pearce was quite good. Andrew McCulloch in his debut game was quite effective, but Ponga was just scintillating to watch. And it's the first time we've seen him for a couple of months now. And you talk about his contract. You talk about is he worth that money? And you're damn sure he is after seeing that game last week.
Yeah, they were fantastic to watch. Now, we'll talk about our teams that disappointed us. And after, I think a lot of the boys here gave him a rap except for myself. And after Pisani put them on as term deposits, we had the Tigers as disappointments, me and James. Sal, you had the Dragons. I think that explains itself. Pisani, agree with our disappointments of the week?
Yeah, yes, I think it's hard to say. I thought, the Titans actually turned up and the coach put them on notice and they lost through a pretty average kick, to be honest. That just fell into the right place and they went over the score with a minute to go. So I think the Tigers didn't play horrible. They scored an unbelievable try.
Yeah, try of the season so far.
Try of the season so far, you'd have to think. I thought it was actually a three-quarter decent game of footy, that Tigers-Titans game. And sometimes you just want to be critical. I don't think they were the most disappointing team. I think they ran into a team that was desperate. They tried everything. They got off to a good lead. They came back, and it wasn't as if they let in any major soft tries, if that makes sense. I didn't think the Tigers did.
So which team was the team that disappointed you in this last round?
I think they're a shambles. They're gone.
Who's that?
Dragons are gone.
Yeah.
I'm all with Jimmy. I think you picked the Dragons. Is that right, Jimmy?
No, Sal did.
Sal did.
No, I did.
Yeah,
I just think a continued downfall. But Paul, I've got a question for you. The dropping of Benji Marshall, is that a right move? And do you think he contributed to just 23 points on the board and as to why they lost? I think there's more to it. I think a few others got the
It
axe.
shocked me when I saw it. I thought Benji's been a real pillar for them of late. But at the end of the day, it's one of those decisions where it feels like Maguire's trying to extract a reaction from the playing group. It doesn't seem like there seems to be ulterior motives to the decision, and maybe he'll get that. It's a typical Maguire move, trying to make a statement. It might backfire, and Benji's been the ultimate professional, saying that Reynolds has been waiting his turn in the wings. And to be honest, as a bloke, there's not much worse. There isn't much worse that I think you could have been told than you're having a kid twice and that you're excited for, and then finding out that it's not there. So there's no doubt you can't put brains in statues, but Josh seems to be a very likeable fella, and he's gone through a rough patch. And the senile Buzz Rothfield tried to smack him up in the papers again, and Reynolds returned serve. So I wish him all the best. It just seems a statement from Maguire. So we'll see now.
Well, they've got the Raiders, right? So it'll be interesting to see how it's going to be a tough one for them. But
I think they match up well, though. I think they match up well. I don't think the Raiders.
They've had some classic battles, the Raiders and Tigers in the past. Yeah. So I'm actually quite excited for that game to watch.
Yeah, I think it'll be a really good game, and I think if you're looking for value, as we always try to find. I think the Tigers are a chance.
Can I just add the moment Harry Grant went off, that middle became weak, and Billy Walters came on, I think, for 5 minutes, and then Titans scored a try, and then Madge just sent Walters back to the bench, and Harry went on, and then it appeared that they returned back to that form they were having in the first half, or even last week. Yeah. Do you guys think that Madge should treat Harry Grant just like a McInnes, put him at lock, and just have Billy Walters playing around and ruck with some speed, and then just take him off to the bench?
Neither of them have proven to me that they're locks for first grade. So for me at the moment, Madge can do as he likes with them until one of them is a real standout. I think, just talking with a few good friends over the weekend, I think rugby league is chock full of talent in the second row, fullback, wingers. I think we're really lacking at hooker and in the centres at the moment, and there's some standouts. But, the likes of Hopper and the Morris brothers, and Jennings. Like people say, they're getting old. They're not getting old. I'll take them, but they're unbelievably smart footballers who turn up each and every week, and they're in their top 5 performers every week. Well, why do they need to retire? We need them. As a game, we need them. So, Harry Grant, for me, is a good footballer, but he's not, he's no term deposit to play every week first grade.
James, you just smirked with the term deposit comment.
Our first term deposit comment. I can't wait for the next one though.
There's a few more to come.
I have asked Pisani in advance to be ready for his term deposits of the week.
Is that a segment now?
It is a segment. Let's go to the players that surprised us. So I did this to just provoke a reaction from Sal. Sal had Jesse Ramian as a fantasy player, dropped in. Ramian ended up with 2 tries.
Well, that's silly. That's just silly.
Silly. Have you seen the way he's played in the first 3 to 4 games? He's
a star. He
got rid of it. No, Paul. He got rid of the tackle busts. He thought, no, not going to do it anymore.
Well,
the tackle bust is over. He's decided, I'm going to hold on to the ball and do nothing about it. And then all of a sudden, this game, he decided, hold on a minute. I'm switching gears. He shocked me.
You look like Latrell to me.
You did a McGregor, and you should sack yourselves out as coach. You can't be tinkering with stars. You've got to give them their time. And
just like I gave Dan Gagai 20 games last year. And where did that take me? The worst pickup ever. Who's got him now? George, I think.
I've got him, and he's an absolute out-and-out gun. And
when he plays for Queensland, yeah.
Does he?
No, Paul's talking about Ramian.
Oh,
no, I'm talking about Ramian. No,
yeah, don't get me started.
Jameis, you touched on it before. You had Ponga as your player of the week. That surprised you. He was unbelievable. I didn't see that coming from him. Yeah.
No words. You saw it from the start. He was ready to kick into gear. And just from that first try that he scored, I was like, this is going to be something special. So Ponga has to be mine. But yeah, very close was Victor Radley. I'm very quickly getting the bro crush. Last year, he was amazing. This year, we're already seeing his third year?
Yeah, maybe his third or fourth full year of rugby league. Or in first grade, sorry.
Yeah. Third year is,
I'm making a big call, gents. He's going to play Origin.
I don't think it's that big a call. I think it's pretty obvious. If you picked a team as of today.
Let me make a call, Slimman.
Sorry, I'll make you make
that. Just about that, can I ask all three of you a quick question? I know we're jumping ahead or jumping to a complete different topic. The NRL Grand Final was on October the 25th. The week after is State of Origin 1, and the week after that's 2, then 3. If you win the Grand Final, and let's say the Roosters are in the Grand Final, you're Victor Radley playing 80 minutes, and then you get selected for Origin the week later. What is your view about that? Can you mentally be ready for Origin? Your body would be crushed through the final series. Is it going to test the players, the good players, do you think?
I think they'll come out of it sore, and they'll most probably start the pre-season later. But at the end of the day, if crowds are back, which it's likely they're going to be, Sal, they're getting paid a lot of money in a year. They've most probably taken a haircut. They've just won a grand final. Everyone's trying to do the best thing for the game, and they get to go into camp with 17 of their mates and play in front of 80,000 people in Origin. I no doubt it's not ideal, but I do think a little bit of common sense at the moment. These blokes have jobs. They've got the luxury to play football. And I don't think any of them will be whinging and they'll want to play.
So if you win the grand final and you're on this high, you want to celebrate for a week, you can't.
You can't get on the pitch.
Correct.
You straight away got to go straight into camp. That's going to be tough, I think. And if you're Victor Radley, were we talking about Radley or who?
Let's talk about Victor Radley, for example.
Yeah, Radley.
If you're Victor Radley, and hopefully the Roosters don't do this, but if you win the grand final and then you go into Origin with the side the Blues are likely to have and win Origin, that's going to be a hell of a mad Thursday. So
if you were coach, Paul, just quickly, if you were Brad Fittler, would you be thinking about looking at players who did not make the finals, who may be more fresh? No.
Pick the best player on paper.
You pick the best player. You love Raleigh to get knocked out in the prelim, but you don't want players who have been in losing sides all year. No.
So Paul Vaughan, who, let's say St George don't make the finals, Paul Vaughan is fresh, he's ready to go, he's hungry, he would play Origin, and you've got Clemmer, who, let's say top 4, Newcastle go in, he's bashing his body. I'm not comparing Clemmer to Vaughan, but would you give Vaughan a thought?
Well, Vaughan will most probably make the side, as will Clemmer.
And I think that's a bad comparison. Let's just say, for example, Fafita or Woods.
Give me another one.
Fafita or Woods, and they don't make the finals, but Clemmer does, and they go all the way. And let's just say Fafita and Woods are in Origin.
I think Fafita's not a good example because Fafita will make the side as long as his body's not falling apart. He's the first pick, one of the first pick. I think, I think you just pick the best side. They're definitely going to pick the best side. And the reason why they're definitely going to pick the best side, too much money at stake, mate. Like, I think they get like 40, 50 grand for a game.
Yeah, they get 50.
Like, that's 150 grand for the series.
And they'll probably select the players. They'll select the players 2 weeks before, don't they? Or 1 week before? I don't remember. Maybe they'll change it this time now. But anyway, Sleeman, I think we'll leave that until November.
Yeah, so
I saw it yesterday and I thought I'd bring it
There's
up.
no doubt they're going to pick the best side, and I think whoever the side was last year, if they're fit and well after winning, especially in the blue side, they'll get picked.
So let's go to the players that disappointed us. And me and James sort of cheated. We didn't really pick players. James picked two teams. He couldn't decide whether the Dragons disappointed him more or the Broncos. I picked the refs because I thought it was a disgraceful call in the Parramatta Manly game that would have cost such a magic ending. And then, Sal, you went with Ben Hunt for the second week in a row. Paul, hate our picks.
Go back to them.
So I had the referees, especially for the Parramatta Manly game, where they ruled the forward pass. Sal had Ben Hunt.
Yep.
And James had the Dragons and the Broncos.
Yeah. Well, I think your comment on the refs is a disgrace. I think there's no doubt in that one particular game for that one call, and it wasn't the ref, it was the linesman.
But the all one team, the ref could have overruled him. Remember that.
It's hard to overrule as a ref because he did catch the ball.
But that's why you're refereeing first grade. You're not refereeing park footy. You're there to make the big calls.
Are you saying it wasn't a forward pass?
They have been, in all honesty, they've been pretty much outstanding. I think the standard of refereeing has been high quality, in all honesty. And there's been one controversial decision in 16 games of footy. I think as a whole...
Well, it's not really controversial because the referee's boss came out and said that they made the wrong call on the field. It wasn't a forward pass.
That's why it's controversial. They got it wrong.
Well, I don't think that makes it controversial. I think it makes it controversial if they don't agree.
Okay, well, there is controversy at the time. Anyway, cut a long story short, I think the refs have been good. They made one balls up, and I think they've done a really good job. I think the games have flowed well. As a Broncos fan, I've got plenty to complain about. The 6 again rule.
Well, Paul, I'm going to jump in and say I should have put Anthony Milford in mind. What did you think about his performance?
I just think we're too young, Sal, at the moment. And I think Seabold's, for those people who do care about the intricacies of teams, I think you go and have a listen to Seabold post-match conference. The difference with the Dragons and the Broncos is you can see that the Broncos are trying to go somewhere. As a fan, as painful as it is, we're trying to go somewhere. And when you've got 10 blokes with under 30 games, you're going to have a rough night. You can look at it on paper and think they're ready to go, but they're not ready to go structurally or defensively in first grade. And Seabold said in his post-match, he said, I knew it was going to be a rocky road. I didn't know it was going to be this rocky. He's sort of been humbled.
So do you think you just spoke about the players being a bit too young and inexperienced? Do you think Seabold is inexperienced?
No, I think he's inexperienced of what this journey meant, much like Nathan Brown saying he's going to go really young. But eventually that J-curve does happen and you come out of it. And that's what Newcastle's seeing this year with the likes of the Saifidi brothers, etc., who have now played, north of 50 first grade games and know how to tackle and defensive structures and, aren't babies. And we're going through that. It's most probably going to be, I thought we were a big chance of the 8. I reckon we're Buckley's to none. At the moment.
What would be your ideal spine?
Well, we're missing our best player, Jack Bird. So...
Is he really your best player? I thought Milford would be your best player.
No doubt. Jack Bird is definitely our best player. He's a game changer.
I'm not even thinking about Milford. I think Payne Haas and David Fafita are better players than Milford and Jack Bird.
That's fine. You obviously don't watch a lot of Broncos games in detail. In our spine, he's definitely our starting fullback. I got a message from someone today who knows that I've got a massive crush on Tom Drearden, and there's rumour and innuendo that he may be leaving the club. That might explain why he's not getting picked, and that managers have been...
Where's he going, Paul?
I don't know.
What position is he? He's a
halfback. He's a halfback that can play that really nifty hooker because he's only young. I think he's only 19. Do you want to bring that up, someone? How old he is?
He's 5 nothing and 55 pounds from the
But
last
he's like
time
a
I saw him.
Kiri. He's like a Kiri. Kiri's most probably 5 nothing and 45 pounds.
Yeah, but he's not a hooker, Pisani. He can't play as a
He's
reserve
19.
hooker.
He just turned 19, 3 months ago?
Yeah, and he's a class player. Honestly, he's class. And I'd love to see him at halfback with Milf. And then, unfortunately, I'm still not sold on him.
Well,
just much like Harry Grant, Turpin as hooker. Yes, he's a good player, but he's not a 300 gamer. So.
Paul, I would love to say that Canterbury will take him, but he doesn't have the passion and he doesn't have the culture. So, Sleeman, I'll leave the next slide to you.
Oh, geez. James, you want to quickly touch base? We spoke about Broncos, Dragons. Actually, we're going to talk about the Dragons in a second anyway, so we can highlight that a bit further.
We want ratings, don't we, Sleeman?
Oh, geez.
Get off the Dragons. We spent 20 minutes on last week, and they didn't turn up for a 20-minute shift out of 80 this week.
Yeah.
22-2. Yeah, you can't score. You can't score against New Zealand. You scored 2 against the Doggies. Whew.
Teams to continue form into round 5. I think this will be quick and simple. It's pretty obvious. James, you went with the Knights, and I think that's a good one. The only reason I went with the Roosters, and Sal, you can speak for yourself soon, is because they're playing the Bulldogs, and I think that's my determined deposit if I'm going to steal the words from Paul Pisani's mouth. James, you have the Knights to continue on. Are you going to put the mock on
over the week again? I've got a feeling if you're going to fade me, I think it's a good week to fade. But Newcastle, I think they don't have the greatest record against the Melbourne Storm, and not many people do. But I think they've only got Riley. They've got Riley Jacks at halfback this week, not Jerome Hughes.
Do we think that Andrew McCulloch offered stability when he played for 80 minutes?
Yes, I think they look pretty stable out there.
Paul's face just turned.
I know you're not
about
a fan,
that, Paul.
He tackled 50-plus tackles, Paul.
Yeah,
he offered stability around the ruck.
What's the
one-dimensional? But
how many tackles?
It's what Pearce wants.
How many tackles did McInnes do the week before when they lost to the Warriors?
61 or something like. Or that Chad Randall.
Does Pearce want that? Something just simple, nothing crazy going around, and look what happened.
Anyway,
just saying.
If we want the ratings, McCulloch and the Dragons can't be top billing. So
I think there's some bias there from Sal because he's picked him up. Sal's just been promoting his fantasy team, I feel like, in the first half.
I'm going to make it clear, Sleeman. I don't mind if the Dogs sign him.
You are off your head. I'd rather Michael Leisha back.
I just threw up. That's
so he's the culture. He's got the culture and the passion, does he?
If you want me back on the podcast, and if you want me back on the podcast, and I bring the fireworks, I highly recommend you never mention that gentleman's name.
Pisani, Leisha or McCulloch? Who would you rather?
Oh, no.
Mate, it's McCulloch.
Where is Leisha?
Mate, he's enjoying all that.
You're the last time I looked at his Instagram.
At Minto.
He's enjoying all that free money that he got from the Bulldogs for playing like half a season in first grade and half a season in reserve.
Sleeman, shut up. He had one good game, all right? When he ran around Gallen, I think it was, and scored a try.
So
Sal remembers that very clearly.
I do, because
big fan.
My fantasy team.
Oh, of course.
Okay, moving on. We'll talk about the first topic. And I think this is a big topic that hasn't been addressed a lot in the media. And the reason why...
Hold on, Sleaze. Hold on. You said the Roosters will continue their form. You don't think that they can actually compete against the... you don't think the Dogs can compete against the Roosters this week?
I'm telling you, the Roosters are a term deposit. And
wow.
13 plus is very likely. I know the Bulldogs got to win against the Dragons, but can I just repeat? This is the Dragons that had like a 50% completion rate or something like that.
Sleeman, how dare you? Hayes should be re-signed because you won one game against the Dragons.
Oh, don't start with that sarcasm.
Don't you dare.
I will add, everyone said, Kieran Foran came in that had more direction. I thought Kieran Foran was missing in the whole match. I don't think he did anything.
He ran out of steam. It was Hopewadi, Sleeman.
It was Hopewadi and DWZ. DWZ had a crazy game.
Foreign didn't even kick. I don't know why. I think something's wrong with his right foot still. But he ran out of steam. Cooper Cronk said it. He ran out of steam.
Was Hopper fullback from minute one?
Yeah, from minute one.
Yeah. Okay. And he's solid. He's solid in the back. He's solid in the back. You know who else is solid? Andrew McCulloch.
Oh.
Sorry, I just wanted Paul to wake up.
Kazani, can you name me?
Paul to wake up.
Kazani, who's better? Who's a more reliable hooker, Isaac Luke or McCulloch?
They're both. Let's not talk, maybe. Let's talk about guys who aren't,
So let's go to the next slide before we have
that aren't going to be coaching their kids on the sideline in 12 months.
Okay, Jake Granville or McCulloch? Who would you rather?
Jake Granville.
And Jake Granville got dumped out of first grade. I'd like the Bulldogs to pick him up. I think he's a great hooker.
Yeah, we need him. That new guy they got there, Sleeman, is pretty good.
Reece Robson, he looks solid. Yeah,
I like the way he plays. I like that sort of.
All right, we're going to go to the next topic, and it's about Bateman. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up as a topic, so we've all watched The Last Dance. Sal, I'm not sure about you, but I think everyone's caught up with The Last Dance. And if you remember, so The Last Dance is about Michael Jordan in the Chicago Bulls season in 97-98, but they gave a bit of background about everything else. So now, you remember the 97-98 season, and this is something that I didn't know because probably I was 10 years old or whatever. Scottie Pippen chose to have surgery at the start of the season to hold out because of his contract issues, and he didn't want to play season injured. He didn't want to affect that. Now, we know that Bateman's looking for a contract upgrade, and now he decides to have another shoulder surgery. I'm not questioning the guy's toughness or anything like that, but it just reminded me a lot of the Pippen situation with the Bulls. Guys, do you see that comparison? James, do you want to start it? I know you're like...
I was just going to say something, Slayman. There's a bit of a disconnect because I don't know how long you need to choose to do surgery, but his manager was, I don't want to use the word, but whoring him around like no tomorrow, and then a week later he had surgery.
Lots of rumors.
I don't know how that fits.
But that's the thing, James. Like Sal said, the manager's trying to find offers, and then he gets the surgery. Like
surgery would have been booked in advance. That's what I'm trying to think.
And he's coming off a surgery from this off season.
It doesn't look great. It does not look great. I really appreciate it if Johnny just told me what was going on so I can plan for the future.
So if anyone's not aware, James has him as a fantasy keeper, not even a draft pick, a keeper.
He's gone.
It doesn't look good. I as soon as I hear $3.5 million contracts back home, he's gone.
Is that what they're offering him?
Yeah.
That was the figure.
He's gone. His daughter's over there. That's it.
Bro,
it's over.
Drop. No one will pick him up. You can pick him up again in 6 weeks.
Not even 6 weeks, 10 weeks. The $3.5 million contract, I think that's overseas. I don't think that's the right number. I heard he only wants to play for Wigan, and Wigan's only can offer him $400K over there, whereas the Bulldogs supposedly offering
Is that
$800.
Maybe that's why. I don't know.
But I know it's his daughter, and that's. I'm not a.
Let's talk footy, boys.
But this injury, does it not reek of anything, or you just forget it?
He's a hard bloke to read. I don't know. The whole thing's weird.
The thing that grinds my gears about this, and I'm still in the Peter Griffin line, is that he had one season in an NRL and he automatically wanted a pay upgrade. And it's not just him. A lot of players do that. And they try to. And Ben Barber, when he was playing well, he got out of his contract with the Bulldogs, went to the Broncos. Latrell Mitchell, someone went into his ear saying that he could have gotten more money, and he basically got the same money. These players that, and I think Latrell Mitchell is worth the money, so I shouldn't be as critical on that. But these players that have that 1 or 2 good years and then they expect a contract upgrade, like it grinds my gears, because what about those 5 years that they play like shit? Do we ask for a refund for the money that they play like shit?
Simon, they've got to do what they got to do.
100%.
And Bateman's got a daughter. He's going to capitalise on being away from her. And so I don't blame him if he's trying to do this. If he wants to stay for another year, I'll take him at the Dogs. But I think he's gone.
James, you're laughing. Why?
No, because I've already come to terms that he's going to be gone. He's gone for 10 weeks. He might as well be gone for the season. It's just weird. He's got mates in George Williams and Josh Hodgson.
Elliot Whitehead.
Exactly. And
Nothing beats
it
family,
just
though, so I have a feeling he'll just go back.
And what happened to the other Pommy forward for the Raiders that played lock?
He got sent back, I think.
Oh, maybe he's not playing first grade.
He was one of those wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Most definitely.
Someone who is good enough that come from England that played on the weekend, that Ryan Hall. How's he not playing first grade every week?
Yeah, he's got a good.
Jeez, I don't
He
know.
does, and supposedly the Toronto Wolfpack are offering him some ridiculous money to play for them. I'd take the money and go over. But
he's a
Anyway,
big popper.
it reminds me of a bigger version of Matt Utah back in the 2000s. Just quickly, we'll talk about. We'll move to the next topic. What's happening with the Dragons? We said last week it was the sack cup. Like if whoever loses was going to get sacked. The board gave McGregor another chance by the seams of things. Paul, did he deserve a second? Does he deserve this chance to continue on as coach?
All I'm going to say is I never want to ask for anyone's head to get sacked. That's my personality. These people, this is their career, and most probably there isn't another job waiting. In saying that, I was flabbergasted to find out how many years do you think he's been there? How many respective seasons?
I am in a thread with you, and I agree with what you're saying. It feels like he's only been coaching the Dragons.
How many seasons do you think McGregor has been involved as his head coach? Now, not all of them. So this year counts as one, and when he started, counts as one. Right?
I only thought it was a couple of years, but it's a lot
5,
longer.
wasn't it?
7.
Yeah, South Face said it.
So
all.
5
7 years.
full seasons plus the end of the first year and the start of this year.
Was that after Bennett, right?
No, it was after Steve Price.
Steve Price. Yeah.
I am. Anyway.
Here's the question. If it wasn't for the money that they had to pay out, and I think that was the main contributor, would he have went last night?
I'm 7 years. 7 seasons.
But I think they've got to pay him out 1 million or something, right? 1.5. And I think that's what's. And here's another question for you, Paul. Who will take over until the end of the year? Who's the assistant coach?
I think there's a couple of options.
Young.
I think there's a couple of options.
Young.
Well, Young can take over, but if it's me, this is something that we're talking about with the Dogs as well. I don't mind Dean Payne. Now, I'm not a Dogs fan. But if you are a Dogs fan and a Dragons fan or a Titans fan, at the moment there's a coach. There's 2 coaches on the market that I think that you could go for. One is Nathan Brown, who could at least start a rebuild.
Jason Taylor.
May not get it. And the other one is Wayne Bennett. His contract ends at the end of this year. And if you want to push the envelope, Demetriou can take over there and you can re-sign and you can offer Wayne a big money deal now and hope that the South say, okay, we're happy for him to go now.
On the weekend, I met up with Sal and a few other Bulldogs friends, and I also brought up the option of Wayne Bennett. I said that the Souths are more than likely not renewing his contract after this year, and he wants to continue coaching. As long as he wants to continue coaching, we'd be stupid not to look at Wayne Bennett.
I would offer Wayne Bennett whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Because St. George have got Flanagan in line. If Wayne Bennett goes to St. George and Flanagan obviously will go, then I'll take Flanagan.
I don't
There's another two, Paul, that I like. Jeff Tuvey, and he's a smoky, Kevin Walters.
I heard you.
Yeah. Those 2, I wouldn't mind. Griffin is another 2, but Wayne Bennett is the front runner.
That last bloke.
Kevin Walters, no deal?
Hey, I think...
Mate, I would not have him coach. He wouldn't be coaching the Guymea Gorillas if I must say.
Paul, my problem with Pay, and I've said this to Slayman 1,000 times, in his car when we went to and watched the games, he can't attract players. He can't even attract Bryson Goodwin, and he went hard at Josh Reynolds and sucked when he couldn't get him. He can't attract players. Wayne Bennett can attract. If you are a good player, Paul, would you go play for Pay or would you go play for Bennett? Stupid question, right? But that's where it lies.
Yeah, I think money talks.
But then you're paying overs, Paul. That's my problem. And that's what Canterbury fans need to understand. If you re-sign pay, we're paying overs and we're compressed. And we can't, our salary cap, we don't have enough money.
You know, I hear. So, no, that is the point. I don't think Kevy changes that necessarily. Maybe he does.
I
Maybe
agree. I don't think
Okay,
Kevy changes. I don't think Jeff Tuvey brings any players with him as either.
Better than pay. I think Kevy can bring a good team, and I think Jeff Tuvey can bring a good team.
James,
That's what I think.
I think Pay's been really. I think he's done that. Like, if
Paul,
I
who has Dean Pay signed over
Doesn't.
how long has Dean Pay been there now? Nearly 3 years?
that
Who has he signed that's like, wow, it's a good signing? People are leaving, mate.
yeah, that is an issue.
But actually, forget about, and I don't know how we've derailed to the Bulldogs. We're talking about the Dragons. But just quickly, forget about who has Dean Pay signed. And to be honest, it's up to the boards to sign players or whoever, the recruitment.
Don't get me started, Sleeman, but yeah, go on.
Who has Pay developed? We've had Lachlan Lewis that hasn't looked like he's improved in the last couple of seasons. We have Nick Meaney that came as a fullback and has been stuck on a wing. Either play him at fullback or put him into reserve grade and play a true winger. And Meaney's doing his job on the wing, but we could play. We haven't developed any other players.
Sleeman.
We keep on trying to play Remus Smith in the center when he's not ready, obviously, to play there.
We've developed one Sleeman. His name's Harper, and he's going to go to Manly.
I don't think we even developed him. I don't think he's that great either.
About to.
Morgan Harper.
He's going to be all right. He's going to go.
He's a fringe.
Why?
Morgan Harper is a fringe first grader.
Who?
Morgan Harper is
he's in the New South Wales Cup team.
What position?
Centre.
That's my point, Paul. You don't even know who he is. While we're talking about Thomas Dearden.
Is he good? Is he that good?
No, but I'm saying he's the best developed player we've got.
I think you've got a couple.
Well, St. George is different, Paul. He's got a side.
We signed Jack Cogger.
Just so you know, you've got pieces. I think you're overestimating that you don't have pieces. I think you've got pieces.
But the thing is, Paul, we can have pieces, but if your coach can't develop them to become good first grade players, like Nathan Brown did with the Safidi brothers.
I think he is.
Paul, you said it just before. The last thing Dogs fans want is to say, how long has Dean Pay been at Canterbury? And I say 5, and you tell me 7 years. It'll be very similar, and that's my worry. Well, I don't think of this bloke for 4, 5, 6 years because he's got passion and culture and he used to play for the Dogs. And he's got an all right side on paper and we get nowhere. That's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
James.
That with McGregor, Sleeman, he's got a decent size on paper and he's battling. And excuse my language, but I didn't know he was there for 7 years.
James, put us back on track. We've ripped into McGregor. Are the players at fault in any way or form? They're the ones going on the field and playing like crap.
Where? Dragons?
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't have the cattle.
So, James,
Gentlemen,
why don't they cattle?
Just before James jumps in, James Graham came out and said that it was a psychological issue within the group.
That's rubbish. He's too old.
A confidence issue within the group.
No. The biggest issue is that McGregor, they need to say to McGregor, you're not going to lose your job. Because what he's doing every week is trying to save his job. And he's still playing blokes like you and Aitken because he's scared of developing young talent. Right? They don't have cattle. James Graham, finished. You and Aitken, finished. Pereira and Ravalawa, they can't play. So
I thought Lomax was rubbish as well.
Corey Norman is not a fullback. Lomax is out of position. Like, there's massive issues at the moment, and they're not playing blokes like Saab, who clearly has talent. They're not playing blokes like Tristan Saylor, who clearly has talent.
And he just came out today that he wants out.
Well,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's not getting a start.
So supposedly the Titans and the Sharks are sniffing him out.
And surprise, surprise, Canterbury is not on that list.
Well, I think Canterbury will become on that list, and I think that's the type of player they will go after.
And pay overs.
Well, Sal, do you want the player or not? You're saying that
I
surprise,
do want
surprise,
the player,
Canterbury.
but we're going to play him overs because look, Canterbury's not on that list, Sleeman. There's a reason why.
Sounds like a super coach trade with Sal.
Reason why? That's my
I think
That's the reason why.
I think McGregor's a massive issue.
Huge.
They've got
If it wasn't for that $1.5 million bucket on the head of the board, he would have been gone. And they would have just put in Dean Young and then let him develop and then push Volandes, your mate, to have Flanagan take over. That's what.
I just want to touch base, and I think Paul was touching base on this as well. I don't like coaches getting sacked halfway through the season because it's basically you're quitting on the season. You're going to get an interim coach in there. Then they win the first game after an interim coach comes in, and then they fall off the radar. There's no point in sacking a coach midway through, unless he's that bad. So, and I don't like.
No, he's that bad. It's horrific. He's sending
Gents, with Flanagan there at assistant coach, why isn't it getting better? Do you think? I mean, I would have thought Flanagan would add so much value. Why is it?
Because I don't think Flanagan's a good coach.
No, Flanagan is.
No, he's not.
He's a premiership winning coach, Sleeman.
Oh, he fell into a premiership winning coach.
No, he didn't. No one falls into a premiership at Cronulla.
Oh.
You have to build that side.
Who was that Cronulla before Flanagan?
They built the side and rorted the salary cap that year, and for some reason went stripped the premiership like the Melbourne Storm.
Sleeman, who was before Flanagan at Sharks?
Oh,
Steve Price, was it?
It may have been Steve Price. There was also
that cranky guy. I remember.
They've had Chris Anderson. They had Ricky Stewart.
No, the cranky guy. The cranky guy. They had the cranky guy that took over. Remember?
They had the son of one of the former players as well. He had not long blonde hair. Anyway, looked a little like Trent Robinson. They've had a few coaches. Trent Barrett, I think, may have been a coach or interim, like an assistant. Maybe I'm mixing him up for actually playing there. I can't remember.
Why isn't there a Wikipedia page that tells us history of
Anyway, guys, we spent too long about this. We've gone off topic. We're going to move into the games. We're going to the games for the week. We'll follow the similar format that we had last week. You speak a couple.
I'll dive into this one, Sleeman. All right, we've got Sharks, Sea Eagles and Broncos on Thursday night. I'm going to take this to Sleeman. No, sorry, I'm going to go to Paul because I'm a Broncos fan. What do you think is going to happen on Thursday?
Oh, Manly.
13 plus or just Manly?
Paul, just
I think you got to go 13 plus.
To give you a heads up, Paul, Tafua and Sirenen got ruled out tonight.
Manly 13 plus.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Paul.
Make a difference.
All right. We go into the next game. We've got Warriors versus Cowboys. JMS, since you were so correct about the Warriors last week, who's going to win and why? Paul's reaction.
Wow. Look, the chips are on their way, Sleeman, so don't worry. I've got to get a few vouchers because it looks like I might be paying out a bit more by the end of the season.
Mate, we hungry.
I've got to go with the Cowboys. Yes, I'm going to flip-flop around.
Tamalolo's back, so I'll give that a big plus.
Is Tamalolo really back?
Likely, and I think that Hawker's going to play 80 minutes and he'll just start. And that new kid on the block is going to start on the wing. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but interesting to see how he goes. He killed it in the nines.
I don't think Reese is playing 80 minutes. There's another hooker on that bench. He's 21. I forgot his name, but
I look forward to see how that kid goes. That new one on the Tikal. I forgot how to pronounce it, but he's on the wing.
Yeah, I'm going to take him about any time try scorer there.
All right, Cowboys by how much, James?
Sorry, Cowboys by how much?
By how much?
Cowboys in New South Wales. Give it a good 14.
Oh,
thank you. Sleeman, Eels versus Panthers, Bankwest Stadium, Friday night.
The Clash of the West.
Tough one.
That's a really good game. I still wasn't sold on Penrith's attack. I know they scored 26 points, but one of it was off a charge down kick. One was off a drop bomb. Jerome Luai almost bombed a try when he grubbed when he had the hands. You can't go wrong with Parramatta. I know they fell off in the end of that Manly game, but I think Parramatta will win. It'll be a close one.
I think it'll be close.
I think Matt Burton did not get enough props from that.
Boys, 7.
Maybe you should have put him as your player of the week.
For 7 field goal attempts. All right, so we've got Rabbitohs and Titans. Paul, this one's yours. It's a Saturday afternoon special. Cody Walker is back. Titans, I think they've done a little bit of a shuffle. What do you think?
I don't know if you asked me this for a reason, but two things. Let me say that the Ferrari is warming up. The Redfern Ferrari is pulling out of the garage. He's come into the Bucking Pisani Supercoach side. I've gone early. He'll score 150 this week, and this is the biggest term deposit you'll see this season. South.
That's the first term deposit. Gamble responsibly. Thank you, Paul Pisani.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, that's a given. They will absolutely flog them. And if you're looking for a contrarian view in Supercoach this week, for our Supercoach fans out there, Damien Cook and Latrell Mitchell could bag 350 between them.
Wow.
You've heard it here first. All right, well, Knights and the Storm. I'm going to make a call on this, gents. I think this is going to be the best game of the round. I'm going for an upset. I think the Knights will win. And I think the Knights will win by 4. It will be the closest game of the round. All right. So, James, next one for you. The West Tigers, since you support them at some stage, versus Raiders. What do you think? Josh Reynolds back. You're looking at a more refreshed side. A few players have been dropped. I did not mention in this podcast that Harry Grant is a good player. So what do you think?
No difference. Canberra class above 13 plus.
13. Okay. Sleeman, you got something to say?
I think I'm interested to see how Canberra go in the next couple of weeks because they travel for every single game, whether it's a plane or a bus trip. They're not playing in Canberra. All their home games are getting diverted to Campbelltown. That's a massive weakness. It's a really, and that's the reason
Why?
Because of the isolation COVID. The reason why I didn't
change though. That will change.
Yeah.
Well, you'd hope so, but they've for the whole round for the year they've already allocated home games. So hopefully, if they bring the fans back, then they can go back to the natural home game. But as far as that's the reason why I didn't go Canberra for minor premiers because I think this traveling will get to them. But I think once the playoffs happen, hopefully they do get that home ground advantage, like you're saying, Paul, and they can come strong. But with the Tigers, with a bad loss that they had last week, maybe they fire up a little bit. Maybe it is 1-12 to the Raiders, or they can sneak in a win.
All right, we'll see how that goes, Slimman. All right, so Bulldogs versus Roosters at Sunday afternoon. Who do I go to this? I think Paul. Dogs and Roosters.
You, Sal. Isn't it you? I'll take the last one.
All right, I'm happy to do that. I think it's going to be an absolute. Yeah, it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be really, really bad. I think Tedesco will score 2 tries. I'm going to call it as well, and this is a bad comment by me, but I have a strong feeling Foran will not play 80 minutes.
Just because he looked unfit in one game.
No, I just think I just made it up. I don't know why. I just have a feeling something will happen.
James, can you save this guy from this ludicrousy that he's talking about?
I reckon the Bulldogs will show up. Whatever day it is.
40 points,
Sunday?
60.
I don't think the Roosters
Yes.
I don't think the Roosters have another 60-point game in them. I think they can win maybe 13 plus, but I don't think it's going to be a hiding.
No. Well, they've got 18-point head start. They'll cover that. I think the Dogs with Foran definitely look different. They look more stable, and I think with that forward pack, we'll get the meters. I think it's all up to good old Lockie Lewis to score some points for him.
Well, let's just hope he brings the second half rather than the first half.
Oh, God. And he can pass the ball. In the first 10 minutes, I don't know what I...
Last game, Sal.
Last one. I'm going to go to all you guys for this one. Dragons and Sharks. It's a tough one.
Pisani wanted to have the word on this, so I'm happy to defer to Pisani.
All right, well, it's a new segment. Last word with Paul.
Let's just go with the first segment. What was the first segment? Explain it.
Teams that impressed.
No,
Oh,
No,
Paul
as in the
Pisani's
sec-
turn deposit bets of the week.
I've given you another one here. Sharks will absolutely smoke the Dragons and rub further salt into the wounds of what is already an unsalvageable season. Is that a word?
It is
for
now.
the Dragons.
We just looked it up in the Urban Dictionary.
So what's that? What's that as a? There's 3 term deposits this week.
Well, you said the South.
You've got Manly by 13, you've got South by 13, and you've got the Sharks by 13. I'm surprised you haven't put Roosters 13.
I never said margins. What are they just all up, the 3 of them?
The 3 of them just to win alone is on sports bets gamble responsibly, $2.11. And if you get a bonus bet, you'll get $2.18. So,
Okay.
Pisani,
Well, I was checking up CBA term deposits today, and they were paying, I think, 1.4% for 3 months. So here you can get 118% in the space of 72 hours. So government guaranteed up to 250 grand.
And just a bit of a disclaimer on the investment advice here.
Yeah, we already did that.
We need to get lawyers involved soon. Jeez.
But,
Well, that ends that
at the end
round.
of the day, if it fails, you can always just call ScoMo and get JobKeeper. So
Isn't that about to end?
They haven't made any announcements yet, but Paul loves a good fatty forward way.
it can't end. JobKeeper's not going to end, mate.
I think it was for childcare.
Yeah, for job.
All right, well, gentlemen, is there a surprise that's going to happen in round 5, do you think? Any particular surprises?
I just want to get GMAC back. He's got to be back for next week because the Ferrari
next week
from Redfern came out of the garage and he's about to unleash
Paul,
the fury.
we've got Jamie and Eli coming on next week. It's the battle and the discussion about the Bulldogs. The Brisbane Broncos and the Roosters. It's going to be Jamie versus Eli about the Broncos, though. So that's going to be
Jamie Casman, right?
Yes.
Jamie Casman, the man, the myth.
It's locked in
Cash
for the
man.
16th of June.
What's
It's locked in,
his-
gentlemen.
What's his hashtag going to be? Jamie's the Facebook pest. It's like serial killer Sundays. Jamie would be, you know, how there's a name for what they are. The Facebook pest on Friday night. Jamie Casman. Every time.
Paul, do you want to be part of this? Do you want to be part of?
I think Paul's already invited himself into this conversation.
Jamie Casman.
It's going to be a huge discussion. There's been some heated battles between the two gentlemen. Eli is obviously pro Broncos, and Jamie has pressed his buttons, and so we're going to let them battle out in the ring.
Yeah.
And we look forward to it.
Well, being the biggest Rooster supporter here, I definitely. I kid.
And then hopefully
I'll definitely be watching.
Now
So
we'll be listening in.
And
James,
hopefully the week after,
any last words to promote Jason Taylor as a coach in the rugby league?
Not at all. Not at all. Please don't coach ever again.
Who's that guy?
Who's the bloke you trying to fight?
David Farlongo.
Farlongo. Yeah, exactly. Oh, can we just finish off with one thing? Can we just promise on this podcast we'll never have an Aaron Molan moment? So, Aaron, cheers to you.
I think I'm talking about Andrew McCulloch.
What were you thinking? Lower your colours and say sorry.
She hasn't
You
said
heard
sorry
that from
yet.
Paul. You heard that from Paul.
No, I think the other loudmouth, Kerry Ann Kennelly,
Yeah, she had
trying to be Australia's version of Ellen DeGeneres for 45 years for that stick. Anyway, she trying to come
Where are you headed with this, Paul? If someone's gone off on a tangent, it's Paul. I'm worried.
Anyway,
We're also going to have a Bulldogs special, Sleeman, and that's going to be with George McHale, myself, and you. And we're going to try to get Omar onto this podcast. That'll be interesting.
Oh, jeez.
And Emil.
Is Batman allowed out of the cave?
Bloody hope
Jimmy?
so.
Jimmy, I think they're going to end up with negative ratings. There'll be more people on the podcast than listening in for that episode.
Well, Paul, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do for next week's
Guinness Book
podcast.
of Records, watch out. Negative
Jamie,
viewership for the
listen,
first
with
time ever.
Guys, we're still recording, by the way.
With
Just
Jamie,
so you know.
well, one more comment. With Jamie and Eli, we're going to shoot a live feed for people to join in and listen. How about that, Sleeman? For the first time ever.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah,
I'll
that
listen in.
made...
Just make sure you've got some banter up of the quality of Jimmy and myself for the
Absolutely.
Facebook best
Oh,
We know the
yeah,
rating.
okay.
We know the ratings have gone up in the past 2 weeks.
and the
so-
best McHale. The
And
Facebook pest versus the best McHale. There's
Ah,
a
the best
debate.
McHale. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks, guys.
Before that, Sleeman, I can't wait to debate George about Donald Trump. Sleeman, wrap it up.
Oh, no politics. Thank you,
Make
guys.
sure,
Paul,
as
James.
you wrap it up, next time we invite George McHale, make sure we call him Dugan.
Yeah, because of the, I got a numb jaw. The camera makes me put on 300 pounds. I didn't say that. Thank you, Paul, James, Sal. I'll see you guys next week. Gamble responsibly, obviously, and yeah, enjoy the week.
Looking forward to it.
would
Thanks,
you rather-
Sleeman.